Dan, Russ Brown, KentuckyToday.com. Could you just kind of sum up for us where you are now with everything having transpired on the draft and knowing a little bit more about your future team and so forth?
Yes, Russ. Obviously, a lot happened last week with the draft, and it started with Reid Detmers and Bobby Miller, 2 first-rounders, huge celebration, real happy for them and their families and the program. We expected to lose those 2 guys, so in our preparation, we felt like those 2 were going to get drafted high and work on their future in pro ball. We've had 2 seniors that have signed free agent deals, and Justin Lavey and Danny Oriente, and happy for them because they both, made it clear at this point in their career where they were at academically, how much they've done athletically. They were ready to cross the line. We had 2 signees that got drafted. I spoke to one the other day, in Addison Coffey, and he's hoping to sign, and if everything passes with the physical, it looks like he'll start his pro career. But AJ Vukovic is, it's one of those high-profile, really talented prospects that, kind of can go in any direction and, be a huge get if he were to come to school and be excited about his future. But he might choose to go pro, and, that's between him and his family and their team. And so we've communicated a few times, but, we're letting them work this process out on their own right now. So that's, and then you have all those juniors and a couple other seniors that were not drafted. And so, we're planning on them coming back, but, there's still some moving parts.
Hey, Dan, Cameron from the Courier-Journal. Obviously, you had 2 superb talents in Reid and Bobby, but you guys have had a history of setting pitchers out in the first few rounds in recent years. What does that say about what Roger's done with the pitching guys there, and just how much talent you guys have been able to push out of the program?
I love the consistency, because Roger's been here. And as I say, since day one, since I got here, a couple weeks after I got here, and what he's been able to accomplish, our pitching staff's been able to accomplish. I always say it starts with recruiting. So you got to give himself, Coach Williams and Coach Snyder, a ton of credit for being able to recruit really talented arms. But the kids got to buy in. They got to work extremely hard. Coach Williams has to do a huge part in getting the most out of them. And I love how these guys throughout the last week have recognized our support staff. It's something I always challenge them, with our nutritionist, our strength coach, our trainer, our academic coordinator, our sports psychologist. Don't just take these people for granted. Take advantage of them in the right way and get the support. So 14 years of seeing pitchers develop, and so we're excited about the future. Even though we lost 2 superstar talents, we just feel like that trend and that growth and that improvement will continue as we move on in the near future.
Dan, Fred Calgill, WLKY. Where does that leave you guys for the next school year? And just some thoughts about trying to bring the team back in the Corona world and the limitations of that looking towards the next year.
The summers are very productive. Usually our guys are off playing, and even though the Cape Cod League and a handful of leagues have shut down for the summer, we still have guys playing, and they love the game, and they will find places to play. The Northwoods League is hanging on, and we've got a couple guys that reported up there, and they're going to crank it up in a couple weeks. There's a league in Indianapolis. We have several guys playing, and I just saw a report, with Poland, Prosecki, Perkins. some of our pitchers have thrown, and we'll probably send a few more guys into that league now that the draft is over. We do have a league in Louisville that will crank up, start over the bridge in Southern Indiana, and then work its way back at the end of the month. And I think, Lucas Dunn is playing down in Florida. So we have to let those returners play because they missed a lot of baseball this spring. But we also hope to bring in the new guys, as we've traditionally done for Session 3 in July. Knock on wood, Phase 1 seemed to go, pretty good with football, basketball, men's and women's swimming and diving. And we're hoping Phase 2 goes just as well. And in Phase 3, we'll bring in the new group of Louisville Cardinals and get them ready for, I guess a new normal fall semester is our hope.
Dan, Ken Spencer, WHAS 11. I think the last time we talked to you, it was right before, you guys kind of were able to get some roster relief from the NCAA. I mean, how big is that, just given all the circumstances that you've had to deal with in the past, 3 to 4 months?
That was the most stressful part, Kent, was, these things that are happening were out of our control. And in baseball, we just have some of the strictest policies in place with the limitation in scholarship money, the exact number of guys that can be on aid, the percentage they have to be on at least, and then the roster cap really just felt like a lose-lose situation with all that has gone on. So I was really pleased, as most coaches were around the country, when the NCAA gave us relief. But that just kind of opened the door. What that did was that gave kids the right to choose where they want to be. And so now that the draft has gone by, you can have more conversations with some of your players just to say, hey, this is where I see you on the depth chart. Are you okay in this spot? Usually players see themselves a little higher on the depth chart, and that's okay. They see their best, and I get that. But you just want to be clear. You want to be honest with kids. You want to let them know where they stand. And it's not so much the new guys coming in. I'm very optimistic about the new group coming in. It's probably more of a group of returners that, because certain guys didn't move on the pro ball, because of creating a little bit of a logjam, they're at a point in their career where they got to decide, do I want to stay in this program? And I'm sure they do for a lot of reasons. But if playing time is their ultimate goal, then maybe they need to look elsewhere. But for all the new guys coming in, I mean, their future's super bright. And yes, in year one, the depth chart is going to be a little heavier, and it's really talented, but it should only help them. I mean, you should want to stand next to Alex Benelis or Lucas Dunn or Luke Brown or Levi Usher or Henry Davis and Ben Metzinger and all those guys that they should only help you get better, because we're going to lose a lot of players come this time next year in the draft. So there'll be a big turnover, barring we have what they're calling for 20 rounds next summer.
Hey, Coach, this is Matt McGavitt of Sports Illustrated. Now that you've had 2 seniors signed undrafted free agent deals, where do you think your 2 remaining seniors will sign? And do you still think that your juniors that went undrafted will return for next year?
Starting with the juniors, I think most of those juniors had an opportunity to get drafted, so meaning they might have turned down an offer throughout the draft or before the draft. So I would find it hard you turn down an offer during the draft to be one of the top 5 rounders to sign a free agent deal. So I feel like they're all coming back. The 2 seniors, Luke Smith has publicly said, if I don't hear my name called, I'm coming back. It doesn't mean, he still has the option to sign, and I'm sure he'll make that announcement in the next day or so. And then Adam Elliott. Adam Elliott is one of those guys that very intriguing, liked by a lot of pro clubs. But like a lot of guys, I'm sure they probably wanted to see a little bit more. And as we talked about Roger Williams and his system, it's exciting to see how much better guys get each year. So, we can kind of see Adam going either way, and we'll support him in that. Selfishly, there's a part we'd love to have him back, and our fans would love to have him back. But that's for him and his family to decide as he has, some conversations with some of these clubs. And obviously our fan base, you can only imagine, if they feel like Luke Smith is coming back, a weekend starter, and could really help that weekend rotation as other young guys will step up.
Dan, Russ again, just looking at this as being for the good of the program, is this whole scenario turned out about the best you could hope for?
I mean, yes. With the situation that we had, I always say anytime you're in school, I don't see a lot of bad things happening when you're in school. You look at this last year and everything that went down, and I just kind of feel like a kid in college benefited more than a young kid in minor league baseball, because a young kid in minor league baseball just didn't get to do anything. A kid in college, he got classes. And a kid in college played all fall, played all winter, played all January, played all February, and, got 17 games in. And then the season came to a halt, but still got a full calendar year in academically. So I just, I feel like it's gone about as good as it could go. And believe me, these kids want to play in the big league, several of them, and their desire is to cross the line at some point. But you got to do it when the time is right, and you got to do it when you're really wanted, and you got to feel like, because there's a lot of turnover. And so if you're not 100% confident they want you really bad now, who's to say they're going to want you in a couple years from now as they continue to bring more players in? So, each kid has to evaluate his situation, and the line I use a lot with kids, and I get it at this age, sometimes when you lose, you really win. And so as a young man, maybe in high school that didn't get drafted, or let's say one of our juniors, yeah, there's a part that they feel like they might have lost, but many times they'll look back a year, 3, 5 years, 10 years from now and go, you know what? I actually won at that time in my life when I thought I lost. So good things can still happen when you're in school, because we're going to work towards that degree, and we're always going to get better.
Dan, Michael McCann from Cardinals. Go ahead, Jody.
Would you, Dan? You've always had each and every year. It seems like you've known who you're.
Money down. They say no, because that's what we're doing right now. Everybody loves what Genesis is doing. Why are they doing it? Well, because they're Genesis and they're great. And
okay, sorry.
Sorry, I clipped him.
Dan, you've always had. It seemed like you knew the rotate, or part of the rotation. Because the year was cut short, you lost, a couple guys out of the rotation. I guess, how big would Luke be back, just to know that there could be one piece, and just so many young arms, and what that's going to be like this fall, kind of battling for spots in the pitching staff?
I mean, it's fun. I think Coach Williams is looking forward to the opportunity and the challenge as we had meetings in the spring, and then when COVID hit and the season got cut short, as probably Coach Schneider and I were concerned about the pitching staff and the rotation, and thinking we could lose the whole rotation, weekend rotation. Coach Williams was probably the most confident of all of us, because he's with those guys every day, and he sees all the talent in the younger guys. He feels really good about the incoming guys. But anytime you can have a weekend experience older guy back, it can make it easier for everybody else. And Luke's first comment to me was, Coach, I want to be the Friday night guy, and I don't blame him, and he could very well be that. But I kind of chuckled and said, I hear you, you could be. And I told him, of course, he's got to earn it, which he respects. He knows he's got to earn that, but the value of that Friday guy really takes the pressure off of who pitches on Saturday and Sunday. And I'm not saying any one of those returners, younger guys, can't be successful in the Friday night role. But you just feel like on paper, with Luke's experience, his success the last year and a half, it's a good feeling. I think I'll sleep a little better knowing that he's back in the rotation. And I think it'll only help. It should help all those younger guys and new guys coming in, how much they can benefit from playing with a guy like Luke Smith and really letting Luke set the tone for the weekend.
One follow-up on pitching. I've been meaning to ask you this for a few weeks. Have you ever had a 27-year-old incoming guy on your roster before? And the Marine and Anthony seems very excited to be kind of taking on this journey and to do that. Have you ever had a player that old?
I don't know. Somebody on the team's going to get called Grandpa. That's just a tradition. So whether it was Lavey last year or one of those guys, it was Austin. Austin Conway a couple years ago was in our law school. So someone's going to be the oldest guy in the team, and they're going to get joked about in that sense. But just a really sharp, neat young man, and obviously has a neat story. And I think how much our players can benefit from playing with a guy like that who's had a different journey and experienced real life, real world stuff, and being in the military and being deployed. I think we're all going to benefit. I think our whole program, I think our fan base, I think our whole community can benefit from a guy like that being in our organization.
From Cardinal Authority. When you look at a guy like Lucas Dunn, I mean, he's a guy, rewind the clock 12 months from now, and he's probably anticipating being here. Already heard his name in the draft, but got the experience with Team USA, but then injured and had got off to a slow season. How's he handling all this mentally? Not hearing his name in the draft and all that.
Just very mature. You love to see kids who are confident in their ability. It's amazing how many great players are back in college. It's something I talk about often. You don't know how special it is until you're there. And that's the toughest thing for a high school kid. They don't know. They think they know. They think they know pro ball. They think they know college. But it's not their fault until you live it. But how many great players are in college that stay in college, especially this year, where, we reeled off a few guys with Kirian and Dunn and Luke Brown and Albanese and these players. And every school has like 3 or 4 of those really good players that didn't sign, didn't settle, if you want to call it that, didn't lower their standard. And they were very confident in coming back to school. And it's hard to say Lucas Dunn is not one of the most valuable kids in a program. Anytime a guy can play basically all your skill positions, your athletic positions, he still jokes me that he can pitch, even though he wasn't great. That one fall he pitched for us. I wouldn't doubt it if he can catch, but I don't think I'm going to risk putting him back there. But just an older, experienced player. And Lucas Dunn's greatest gift is he plays hard. I mean, guys can learn an awful lot from practicing and playing with him. And our younger guys are going to really benefit from playing with a guy like that, because from the moment he got here, man, he puts his head down, he just plays, and he plays hard. And it's not about scholarship, and it's not about ranking, it's not about being drafted, and it's not about entitlement. Just put your head down and play hard, and good things will happen. And he's had a really neat career to this point. I say I'm surprised, but I had 4 or 5 guys on Team USA that, like Lucas Dunn, didn't sign, didn't get drafted in those first 5 rounds, and I'm sure they're all confident that they'll go back and do great things.
Dan, Fred Calgill again with WLKY. I know it's obviously only June, but what is the potential for this team for 2021?
It's I laugh because in one sense, the goal is a national championship, and we feel like we're the type of program. Things have to go okay, and you got to catch a couple breaks, and you got to stay healthy, and guys got to continue to develop. And put up monster sophomore years or junior years, and maybe a couple young guys will really help us. But, you realize, and we got to get to practice, and I'm just looking forward to a BP on the field. I'm looking forward to a scrimmage. It's a long process, but there's no reason with our history, our track record, the momentum we have. Last year's team got a lot of love because of the weekend rotation and the pitching staff. That's not a knock on the offense. Just we had some real star power, as we saw in the draft on the mound. I think this year, not that the pitching staff won't get love, and it will with Luke Smith and Carrion and Elliott and Albanese and that whole crew, but the position players are probably going to get a lot of love. And this group going into their junior year, they were the 3rd ranked recruiting class coming out of high school, and I don't live and die with those rankings, but it did mean that they had talent and they've gotten better, which you love to see in our program. So I think the offense will get a lot of love. I think we've already been in some projections to get to Omaha, but I just hope that's a yearly thing. And even if they don't know every player, I'm not one to make excuses or downplay it. We got a lot of good players, and let's hope we can stay healthy and just have a good fall and get through this winter and be ready to play in the spring.
Dan, this is Aaron Matus with WDRB. Just your thoughts on the current situation with Major League Baseball, and did that impact conversations you had with guys maybe wanting to sign, and there's not really a league to get assigned to if you do sign right now?
It's definitely concerning. It's not like we hung our hat on that because we don't know. I mean, it's just a lot of unknowns. For guys that sign, I guess they can get sent off to their Arizona or Florida complex and maybe they could start working out, but you realize maybe not everybody's going to get to play. And are they going to get to play in the summer? Are they going to get to play in the fall? They don't start spring training till later than we do. And yeah, you look at what just transpired over the last 12 months and you go, well, if that happens over the next 12 months, how much baseball are you really going to play? And not that I can promise much more, but as we're on campus now and transitioning in phase 2 and hoping we could get the fall in, kind of like I said in an earlier statement, well, I can promise we can get you classes. We can help you work towards your degree. We're going to get after it no matter what in the weight room and between the lines. So I'm sure that was a factor, but it's not one for us to say this will happen or this won't happen because there's just unknowns right now. And I don't blame a family being concerned about those unknowns.
Dan, JJ Cooper of Baseball America. Now that you've gone through as a coach and dealing with players who've gone through the 5-round draft, the undrafted free agent period afterwards, what are your thoughts on kind of how this went compared to a normal year? Was this, I mean, obviously it's unusual, but were there issues with it? Did it cause problems, or did you think overall it just was a little different?
It obviously was different, as soon as it was announced that it was 5 rounds, and now we're only dealing with, 150 or so picks. Right away, you realize, okay, there's definitely going to be more talented players in college baseball next year. I'm a college coach, and I know a lot of pro guys and scouts. I would have been great with 10 rounds, and as I think scouts would have been great with 10 rounds because we just felt like that had been a cleaner draft in terms of, I think, what happened in rounds 4 and 5. And you had so many guys for those spots that I'm not criticizing an organization, but they probably had 10 to 20 guys for their 3rd round pick or 4th round pick or 5th round pick. So however their strategy was, I just don't think any of us think the best 160 players were drafted. And I think that's always a concern in the draft. And at some point, if you have a hard slot system, you're never going to get the best players taken in the right slots. It's always going to be negotiations and who's going to take less and working on budgets and saving money for another player. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not criticizing them. That's the system they have, so they use it to their advantage. But if you want the best player going to the teams who need the best players, then a hard slot draft system would seem to be the easiest pattern. And I think it'd make it easier for a lot of people. College coaches, kids, families. I'm not saying agents or advisors would want it like that, but it would take a lot of the stress and negotiations out of play.
Dan, Eric Crawford from WDRB. We've asked a ton of questions about the future. I'm just wondering how long it takes you to come to peace with losing a season with the kind of promise this season had. I mean, we know how much a trip to Omaha is worth when you have so many guys back the next year. Obviously, you had a top team. Just from your own standpoint, I know there's a lot to get busy on, but how long did it take you, or has it even come to a place yet where you're at peace with losing a whole season?
You know, I got over it pretty quick, and I challenged our players. You know, no self-pity, and there's no crystal ball. We don't know what would have happened. We've been a part of, national seeds, and we've had, if you're at this dinner table enough, you're going to get some heartbreak losses. And so there's no guarantee. Life moves on, and, we're challenging our kids to prepare for the future. So we're not going to do a whole lot of good feeling sorry for ourselves. And as I always say, for that team we had this year, yes, for Detmers and Miller and Lavey and Oriente, and, it really stinks for those guys. But everybody else is coming back. And even if we'd have won a national championship this year, I owe it to those group of kids coming in that we recruited them with, and we promised them the opportunity. So it really doesn't change how we'll go about this next year, because of all the new players and all the returners. And, so hopefully that answers the question. That I don't spend a whole lot of time thinking about it. We're too competitive, and my heart and soul is pouring into these guys, and we'll support those guys that go pro. And we try to communicate with them, encourage them, challenge them, make sure they finish school for a couple of those that haven't finished school. But it's right on to the next team. And as I always say, this is their window of opportunity. So, for all these new guys, their window's about to open up, and our job is to help them be the best they can be.
Dan, Cameron from Courier Journal again. You mentioned with obviously so many college kids coming back to school, do you expect this to be one of the more competitively balanced years in college baseball this season?
I would imagine. I think it's going to be a lot of fun for our fans. I know just in the ACC alone, I can picture each club. I had 3 or 4 guys on the USA team or at the trials that are all back in the ACC. And, I mentioned 3 or 4 guys. Every team in our league and most of your top 100 teams in the country probably have 3 or 4 guys that they didn't expect to have. And I think it's going to be exciting. I just hope we can get through the winter and have a healthy spring, because I think college baseball is going to be a real joy next year for a lot of people.
And Dan, one more thing on that. Obviously you had some injuries last year, and you had guys like step up in different positions. You're returning so many position players. is this a different type of challenge than maybe you've had in the past of finding a lineup with such a loaded and deep position group?
I think it works itself out. You just got to give it time. You know, I mentioned it in the preseason media day and at the leadoff banquet, and you know, we kind of pick a lineup, and that lineup is never the same. I mean, I didn't have Ben Metzinger playing third base and leading off. I could have written 10 lineups. I didn't have that in one of my 10 lineups. But a week into the season, 2 weeks into the season, you know, a couple injuries and guy gets hot and you try to get him on the field. And that's what you love about college baseball. Seems like every year there's a player or two. So I'm just optimistic. The competition will be very healthy. These kids will benefit from the next 12 months more than they realize. The competitive nature of our practices, our scrimmages, our controlled scrimmages, guys fighting to be in the lineup and be in the mix, it's only helping them. It's the greatest tool an amateur can have is competition, and probably a professional. And the great ones have that. The great ones have that competition going on, as we saw the Michael Jordan. I mean, he's deriving these competitive events, or this guy said this about him and this guy, just to get himself worked up. And I'm excited for our athletes because they're going to grow an awful lot in these next 12 months. So I just need to keep them going and keep them hungry, keep them fighting. They'll be better off for it. As we always say, when you get in the pro ball, you know, you act like it's handed to you, and just because they give you a big signing bonus, man, it's not like that. You got to earn it. So the great thing, the kids who come out of our program, they know how to earn it. And that's why we're having success in pro ball. That's why we've got the 15 big leaguers since 2014. What they're learning in our program is helping them in pro ball, and probably more important, it's helping them in life.
All right. Anything more for Coach McDonnell before we move on to the players? All right. Hearing nothing, we'll wrap up with Coach McDonnell, and we'll switch over and we'll get Danny Oriente in here and get started with that.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Dan.
Hello.
All right, Danny, we got you.
Cool.
All right, we'll give everybody a chance to get Danny set up. Give us just a second and we'll get rolling.
Cool.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. Danny Oriente with us now, senior with U of L, just signed a deal with the Arizona Diamondbacks as a free agent. Before we open it up for questions, Danny, I'm going to give it to you and allow you to kick us off.
Yeah, I just want to take this time to thank the Diamondbacks for this opportunity. I mean, it's a great opportunity. It's exciting times for me, but I mean, I couldn't have gotten here without the likes of my coaches, fans, family, and my teammates. So I just want to start off with that, and I'm super excited for this opportunity.
All right, let's open it up for questions for Danny.
Danny, Russ Brown, Kentucky Today. Had you pretty much made up your mind that you were going to do this, or was it difficult to take the leap after you found out you could? What was your thinking on that?
Yeah, I was pretty much set on pro ball. I mean, coming in as a senior, I kind of went through the whole senior year thing, and it kind of felt like the finale for me, so to speak. So, yeah, I was kind of setting my mind on it, but at the same time, it wasn't easy just to, say goodbye to my teammates the way I had to and whatnot. It's not the finish that I thought I would have, but yeah, it had to be that way, but, that's what happened.
Michael McCann from Cardinal Authority. Obviously, your hope was to get the call in the Major League Draft, but obviously, a lot of the pandemic and shortened it to 5 rounds. Are you driven a little bit harder because you might have to feel like you improve yourself once again because of not getting the call during the draft?
Oh yeah, definitely. It adds a chip on your shoulder, no doubt. I mean, even my junior year, not hearing my name called, and then as a senior, not hearing my name called in the draft, it's tough, but it adds a chip on your shoulder, and I think I'll take that with me to pro ball. But yeah, not hearing your name in the draft at all is kind of sucks, but it's all right. Adds a chip on your shoulder, I guess.
Yeah, Russ again, Danny. What do you know about the Diamondbacks? What have they told you about what the immediate future holds?
As of right now, they're not too sure with all this stuff going on. So they told me that I should be flying out there of some sort, signing something. But with all the COVID stuff, they're really in a gray area right now. So they'll get back to me with all that stuff. But as far as my agent has told me, maybe some instructional league stuff in the fall, maybe some sort of camp or something like that. But anything that comes my way, I'm ready for it.
Danny, hey, it's Jody Dillon with Cardinal Authority. Did you, I think Dan mentioned earlier, but academic-wise, you had graduated, correct?
Yes, sir.
How much did that play a factor into it, and maybe did it make it a little bit easier than say if you had, if you hadn't graduated or you weren't finished with school, and maybe coming back?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Coach Mack always harps about it. You want that degree in your back pocket, and it's really hard once you start a pro career to come back to school. So, that was a big factor. If I wasn't done with school, I would probably maybe lean towards going back just to get that degree because it is very important to me. But now that I got it, it was kind of like, all right, I'm done with school. I can kind of come to a conclusion with all of this.
What's the last week, or what was last week, I guess, like for you? Did you get a lot of attraction from some other teams, and kind of in the end, why the Diamondbacks for you? Why did you feel like it's a good fit?
Well, yeah, my agent called me a few weeks ago and he said, he told me some good stuff. He's like, we're having good conversations and stuff like that. And so I kind of knew what to expect a little bit. We were leaning more to the free agent deal. Probably wasn't going to go in the top 5 rounds. So, but yeah, as far as that goes, my agent has great relationships with all the people in the organization of the Diamondbacks. He told me it would be a great fit for me. They're getting me as a utility player, maybe some catching. So I was really into that. So that just all factored into the decision.
Hey, Danny, this is Matt McGavick with Sports Illustrated. Now that your time as a Cardinal is behind you, what do you want your lasting legacy to be at Louisville?
Honestly, I just wanted to live through my teammates in a way. Just the way I handle my business, and I hope I made that impression on those kids this year as a captain. That's really what I was striving for, as being a captain, just to leave an impression that can last further than my time there. And yeah, that's just really what I hope to do with those young guys, and we'll see to come. Hopefully they could come out with a national championship in a few years.
Danny, this is Aaron Matus with WDRB. Just, I guess, how frustrating or, how big a test of your patience has this been? Because you make the tough decision, you have the season end, and now you're going to go on to pro ball, but you can't go play anywhere right now. Usually you'd be whisked off to low A or whatever it might be. Yeah,
I mean, I'm just trying to stay busy as much as possible. I mean, there's a lot of idle time with all this stuff going on, especially where I live. I mean, in Illinois, it's like complete lockdown. When I went to Louisville in Florida, it was kind of a little bit laissez-faire, but Illinois, it's complete lockdown. So I'm just trying to stay busy, keep my mind busy, and that gets me through the time most of all.
All right, anything else for Danny before we let him get out?
All right, I don't hear anything. So, Danny, we appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you all, and appreciate y'all over the years and whatnot. And I'll see y'all.
All right. Good luck.
Thanks, Danny.
Good
All
luck,
right,
Danny.
give us just a second. We'll get Justin Lavey in here, and we'll make that the end of the day. Hey, Justin.
Hey, how we doing?
Good. Give everybody a chance to lock him in, and we'll get off and running.
Cool.
All right, let's get rolling with Justin Lavey, senior U of L, just signed a free agent contract with the Seattle Mariners. Before we do questions, Justin, I'll let you kick us off.
Yeah, I just want to first off thank the Seattle Mariners for taking a chance on me. It's honestly a dream come true to be able to sign and play professionally. I want to thank the coaches and my teammates at U of L. Just all the support and time we put in together is just something I'll cherish forever. And U of L is a special place in my heart, and that baseball program is a long way from over. And just my family, all the time, effort, energy, and money that they have put in. It's just a blessing that they could be on this journey with me.
All right, open it up for questions for Justin.
Justin and Russ Brown, I'll ask you the same thing as Danny to start off with. Was this something you had pretty much decided you were going to do if you got the chance, or did you have to give it a lot of thought when it came around, or what was your thinking on that?
Yeah, when you're a part of a program like U of L, it's always hard to leave, especially on the terms where the season came up short. It was a tough one for sure, but pro ball was always a dream of mine, and I talked to Coach Mack, and we both agreed that it was the best thing for me moving forward to cross the line and start my professional career.
Let me follow up with that about the Mariners. What do you know about the Mariners? How do you think you fit in there, and have they given you any indication of what's next?
Not too sure yet on what's next. They're all trying to figure out what's happening with the big leagues, and it's all a little up in the air right now. So they're keeping me informed, and hopefully we get playing soon. I'm anxious to get started, but I know it's a great organization. I know Josh Stowers got drafted by them. He played with them for a little bit. He told me nothing but good things, and as well as my buddy Jared Kellenick from back in Wisconsin, who's actually committed to Louisville. He's in that organization. He's actually their number one prospect, and he's had high praises for the organization, all their staff and stuff. So I'm very anxious to get going, and I'm blessed to be a part of the Mariners organization.
Justin, hey, it's Jody Demling with CardinalAuthority.com. When you look back to the last week or so, as Danny said that, his agent kind of kept telling him, what was going on. Were you always feeling like it was going to be the free agent, or do you have some hopes maybe to get in that 5 rounds? And I guess just how difficult has the last couple months been, because knowing it was only 5 rounds?
Yeah, I mean, it was always up in the air. And even a couple days before the draft, I think a lot of people weren't sure how it would shake out. And even just listening to the draft and following along, it was a very different draft. So it was always in the back of my mind that there was a possibility maybe to sneak in to the last couple rounds, but I'm just happy to get the opportunity and thankful that this year Seattle Mariners will take a chance on me.
So a follow-up on that, can you kind of put into perspective what your career at Louisville has meant to you, and kind of what, as you walk away from the program, kind of where where you think you kind of fit, and what your legacy is going to be with the program?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have traded my time, all 4 years there for anything. going in there as a freshman, I thought I knew a lot about baseball, and then about 2 weeks in, you're like, oh my goodness, I knew nothing. Just the amount of knowledge the coaching staff and the older players were able to share with me. That's something I hope I was able to pass on to the younger guys in my junior and senior year. I just want to be known as a good player, but even more importantly, a good Christian and a good person off the field that hopefully had a good influence on the younger generation, hopefully inspire them to play baseball, go to school at U of L, or whatever it may be.
And my last thing, do you feel like you have a little bit of an advantage moving into pro ball because you've moved around and the versatility that you have on the infield? That does that give you any kind of an advantage at all, you feel like?
Yeah, that was one of the things I talked about with the Mariners, just my ability to play multiple positions. I love playing anywhere, so I hope I'll get the chance to play multiple positions in pro ball still, but I mean, there's always a need for a certain position, and being able to play 3 or 4 definitely helps.
Justin, another to follow up with that, what's your favorite? What would you prefer?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I've been getting asked that question a lot lately, and I feel like my answer changes every day, but I would have to go with short. I really enjoy it. It's kind of a mix between second base and third base where you have to have some arm strength, but you're still up the middle. You have to have quick hands and quick feet. So it's kind of a happy medium between the two, so I think that's my favorite.
All right. Anything else for Justin before we wrap up today? All right. We'll wrap it up with that. Justin, appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, Justin.
Thanks, everybody.